Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. All commissioners are present. Announcements are on the agendas and extra copies are on that side table. Our first item up this morning is for comments for items not on this agenda. Public speaking. Anyone? Okay. All right, I'm going to move on then. I'm looking for approval of the agenda.
Also move.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Approval of the minutes from November 5th.
I'll move approval as corrected.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, passed unanimously. Approval of consent calendar.
So move.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Length of service awards, Mr. Hawkins.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Today, we get to recognize a few employees, and I'm going to just start with the one that is actually present. So we would first like to recognize Robin DeForest with our General Services Department for 30 years of service. Rob, come on. Morning.
Morning, Robin.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. They'll all.
Run the gauntlet. Thank you so much.
30 down, 30 to go.
Thanks, Robin.
Oh, a short time.
No.
No speech?
No.
No speech. All right, all right. I mean, that's unlike you, but.
Yeah. So we do have a couple of other employees we would like to recognize. We'd like to recognize Jacob Lacombe with our Sheriff's Office for 10 years of service. And then Patricia Perez, not to be confused with her mother, Patty Perez, who served many years here as well, but she also has 10 years of service.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up is an interpretation of an ordinance. Hannah, Austin. Put on your best dancing shoes.
All right, good morning. I'm Hannah Brickner, Senior Planner with Polk County Community Development Department. I'm here to discuss an application we received for a similar use determination, requesting the Polk County Planning Director to determine if a Renaissance Fair is similar to a fairground, which is a use that is permitted in the Public Amusement and Recreation or PA zone, pursuant to Polk County Zoning Ordinance Chapter 170. It appears that fairground has been listed in iterations of PCZO Chapter 170 since around the year 1970. However, at this time, staff has not identified any meeting minutes or other evidence that speaks to the legislative history of the ordinance. The Polk County Zoning Ordinance does provide a definition of fair, or does not provide a definition of fairground. However, other zones like the exclusive farm use zone and farm forest zone allow for expansion of existing county fairgrounds as allowed under state law. While these other chapters of the ordinance only contemplate, excuse me, publicly held fairgrounds, the PA zone does include some uses that are commonly held in private ownership, such as amusement parks or a golf course. Due to the uncertainty of the intent of the use fairground in the PA zone, Polk County Community Development Department is requesting an interpretation from the Board of Commissioners in this matter pursuant to PCZO 111040 and 111050. Specifically, staff requests the board to clarify if fairground, as it is used in Chapter 170 of the Polk County Zoning Ordinance, is intended to allow privately held fairgrounds such as the Renaissance Fair that is being proposed by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, questions, discussion?
Just to throw my thoughts here. There's a lot of fairs held in a lot of different communities and regions, not on fairgrounds. So does that make a fairground? And in my case, a fairground is any place that's holding an event. So it's just not the county fairgrounds or the state fairgrounds, but if it's fairgrounds, you can hold an event like what's proposing here, having a Renaissance fair. And it's already zoned for entertainment, amusement, and zoned correctly. It's just a descriptive word. So I'm good with being very generalized and not just a public entity.
I agree. I don't think we need to make a ordinance change here. It seems to fit in the definition in the zone. And I think the word public in the name of the zone refers to the audience, not the ownership of the land. And the zone was designed, I believe, precisely for large scale recreational gatherings like this. And it does it is a fair in all senses of the term. So I'm okay with that interpretation as well.
Okay, so here comes Mr. Negative. I am aware of the action or the activity that's triggering this question, and I'm good with that question in that instance. However, I always want to ask about, okay, well, let's envision the future. What happens on another property and others as we go forward? Do we see in you guys' analysis of this process, in this interpretation, do we see hazards out there, possible scenarios where we go, I wish we hadn't done that. So for example, does this give entitlement to building living structures, homes on property that otherwise might not be considered, or any other kinds of improvements that might not otherwise be considered? I just want to make sure that we're not building ourselves a trap that makes us go, oh, I wish we hadn't done that.
So one of the questions has to do with camping. And so at county fairs, for instance, and state fairs, there's often camping on site for participants of the fair and for vendors. A lot of the vendors that come will essentially camp while they're conducting the fair. And so campgrounds are not, and RV parks are not a permitted use in this public zone, but you could have camping as part for the patrons of a fair event and for the vendors at a fair event. And so that is maybe an unintended consequence where the ordinance doesn't permit an RV park where you could openly market it to transient camping to anybody, that it would be tied specifically to the activities on site. So there are some potential little things like that and other things that we maybe haven't thought about. But the public amusement zone in general allows for things like motor racetracks and amusement parks. It's sort of this zone that allows for some very intensive types of large scale recreational activities. And we don't have a lot of public amusement zoning. The fairgrounds is public amusement zoned. We have this golf course that's public amusement zone. I think the 4-H center is public amusement zone. We have very little public amusement zoning. But yeah, there could be externalities associated with any of those uses that are pretty broad that maybe we haven't contemplated. In terms of dwelling units, I know that with the public education zone, we've had, in which this isn't, we've had inquiries about being able to provide housing for students and staff as part of proposals for public education. None of that has ever manifested into permits for those types of activities. But I don't necessarily see dwelling units as being normally associated with a fairground or these other uses that are there. And I think that we would just have to rely on my discretion in terms of these proposals about what is and isn't normally associated. And that's what the similar use process that we're conducting here is really intended to accomplish. We have a very clear proposal in this instance, and I will, based on the direction from this board, as to whether or not in general this use is permitted in the zone, make a determination as to whether or not their specific proposal is in fact this use or substantially similar, and make that decision on the facts that they present to us. And so theoretically, they didn't have to come and ask this. They could have applied for building permits, and we would have had to try to determine at that time whether or not it was permitted. And so if no one comes and talks to us with these generalized things that we have in the zone, weird things can happen. In this instance, they've been very forthright and very clear. And the memo that we provides pretty good insight into what it is specifically that they're proposing to do. So I'm pretty comfortable in this instance, but I wouldn't necessarily always be comfortable. And I think that we do have some checks and balances.
So you didn't get to, I know you're picking up on what I'm talking about here, and these kinds of activities, not necessarily this particular property or this applicant, that's looking to make a change. But in the future, I mean, again, if all you have to do is call yourself a Renaissance Fair and you can have these activities in EFU zone and.
Not in the EFU zone.
No? Okay.
Public, we're only talking the
okay.
public amusement zone.
Yeah.
The-
Gotcha.
the
So as you're pointing out,
amusement-
it's so limited. We have so few of them, it's pretty rare. Okay.
I think that you really touched on, I think, the greatest fear, and the greatest fear is that our recreational vehicle parks are really intended for transient occupants. And the state has some very specific statutory language that is related to the housing crisis that allows for permanent residency in recreational vehicle parks. And the question is if there's camping there, can the camping turn into permanent residences in some way? But I don't think so, because we're essentially saying that it's just a part of the fair and that we're not permitting like a recreational vehicle park as that term is used. It's just
Intent supply.
like you can show up there and you can have your RV or you can have a tent, but there aren't dedicated recreational vehicle spots or camping spots that are just open to the public in general. The idea is that we just can't turn into something that is really beyond the scope because of some hook somewhere else that maybe we don't know about, like the provisions in state law for permanent residency in recreational vehicle parks. So those are things that like they're just a risk that we have with our zones in general now. And so you're keen to be thinking that way, but we're also, worried about those same things. And this is a very specific proposal. We'll be able to make some specific findings that put some sideboards on really what that means. I think we're fortunate that they're asking this question before they just come and do it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, I thought that it would be appropriate for us to go down a rabbit hole or two here to make certain that we're making consideration for things that could happen in the future. And again, not necessarily on this one, but any others. And again, the fact that you're drawing us down to such a tiny percentage of ground in this county that it could even apply on is a plus. So that helps me.
One quick clarification based on Commissioner Pope's inquiries. So it says that item F under the ordinance that a dwelling for the caretaker or watchman or mobile home could be erected. So that tells me that's a single.
So the Polk County Fairgrounds is the same zone, and we utilize that provision in the Polk County Fairgrounds as a way for a maintenance person for the fair.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So you're very familiar with how that is used and how it's intended. And we would say in this instance, it's exactly the same, whether it's private or public. If you say that it's for both, that doesn't mean that you can use a dwelling for some other purpose.
Yeah. I personally think it's an honest and fair equivalent for a Renaissance Fair. You have vendors, you have events and the like. It's called a fair, it feels like a fair. So I think that's a fair assumption. Then, like you said,
Pun intended.
yeah, pun unintended, actually. You're welcome. And appreciate the applicant too, trying to get clarity on this question before they build things or submit any applications. So.
Yeah, I just want to point out in my time here, I have witnessed more than one occasion where tent camping by users of our current Polk County Fairgrounds has been a struggle. And we've had to argue with those folks. Mostly that's been the manager's problem. But there have been some arguments over, their entitlement to those opportunities, and they've been shown the road. So, but we can't necessarily depend on private operators to do that. So that's what stirs this for me, and just making sure that we're not creating a new camp. Yeah.
We could be.
Yeah, we could be. Thank you. It's on you. It's on you in the future. As you said, you put it on the record. It's on you.
Yeah.
Another allowed use is zoo. So could be more
More appropriate.
more dangerous.
Well, those have happened here too.
Yes.
So, okay. Any other questions?
So Hannah, good job on this.
Yeah, I agree.
We need a motion, yes?
I'll move to approve the interpretation as fairgrounds as generalized.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve your advice and make this change in the interpretation of the ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pass unanimously. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a need for an executive session?
No, sir.
Well, that's good news. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
No, sir.
All right, we are adjourned.
That was kind of a fun one.